Welcome, friends, it's the MovieFilm Podcast. MovieFilm Podcast, enjoy the show. Zach and Sean and Ryan are talking about movies. MovieFilm Podcast on the radio.
Welcome to MovieFilm. This is episode 51, brought to you by Mr. Boy Productions. My name is Zaki Hassan, and joining me once more is my good friend Brian Hall. How's it going?
Good.
It's worth pointing out that right now, Sean Coyle is in the future trying to escape the clutches of evil, intelligent apes.
He's in our thoughts and prayers.
Yeah,
and
so
we hope he's in yours as well.
We wish him all the best. So,
Is this going to become our reoccurring bit, where Sean, the adventure that Sean is on?
That's pretty much what it seems like. Well, he keeps so busy. That we feel it's in our interest to inform the audience about that.
Yeah, we did not have a falling out. He's directing a show, peeps.
He's extremely busy. I spoke to him earlier today, and he croaked out a few words in between snores as he was editing a show while holding the newborn baby with his head resting comfortably on the keyboard. So that's kind of where he's at right now.
Yeah.
So Brian, what's going on? What's new?
Oh, I don't know. Been pretty busy. It's been busy for all of us lately.
Yeah.
But let's see. Well, I just finished 24, which had its 12-episode run.
Oh, right. And it has a tragic ending of sorts?
Yeah, I won't spoil it, but in true 24 fashion, it's not like anyone walks off into the sunset. You know, there's some good, there's some bad, but I have to say, man, I enjoyed the heck out of this season. There was something about not having it for a while, and then it just seems like this is a story that they were like, okay, like I think we got something. Like let's do this. So they did something special. They cut it in half. So normally they have 24 episodes, now they have 12. So it almost felt like they didn't have to, blow smoke, just to fill their quota. And everything just moved at this nice clip, and it was nice to see the characters back. I enjoyed the heck out of it. It was a lot of fun.
So in this case, absence really did make the heart grow fonder.
Yeah, and then immediately, you see people clamoring for another season, and I'm like, all right, I don't need it in a year. I mean, if they want to come back in 2 years and they're ready, then that's great. I kind of prefer it this way. I think it's kind of cool. I mean, it almost feels like TV has changed so much since 24 went off the air. Like when you have shows dropping on Netflix in February, it's like, all right, whatever, we'll take it when we can get it, right. Kind of a thing. Like it doesn't matter if it's in the fall or whatnot. So it's kind of interesting. It was an interesting experiment, and it seems like it paid off.
Right.
So
well, and speaking of absence making the heart grow fonder, I've been living the single life for the past month. Yeah, and that little experiment is about to end. So because I'm going to be heading to Spokane in a couple days to go pick up the family. So
very cool.
And I think I have to say it couldn't happen at a more apt time because my home has turned into Lord of the Flies pretty well. I have to say, in my defense, I really did make an effort when I first got back to keep up on the chores, to keep the house clean, and pretty swiftly the house, the sink got full of dishes, and it's weird how when you have no one around and no one to impress, how quickly the niceties of social skills. Like I realized, I don't need to wash the dishes today, and
right. I mean, who am I going to impress? Who cares?
Exactly. Who's coming? After a while, you stop aiming when you go to the bathroom.
Wait, what?
Things like that. The other day, it got so bad that I went to the store and I bought a volleyball and painted a face on it. And then at night, the ball kind of rolled away from my bed. And I was like, Wilson! And I could have walked over and picked it up, but that would have involved walking. So
it's cold.
It's a hard life. But so I'm glad to have civilization re-enter my life. I think it couldn't happen at a better time.
Well, I've appreciated this time that you've had because you were able to come down and visit me.
That's true. Yeah. So we got to hang out last week, which was a lot of fun.
Mhm.
And yeah, I realized that when you become an old man, as both of us are now, we are now in that older man phase of our life.
Sure.
Just getting together with your old friends and being able to do single guy stuff becomes something that is a privilege.
Yeah. And I mean, we hadn't been in the same room together for a couple of years.
Because we
so-
hate each other. It's worth pointing out that.
Well,
that's
there was a
actually-
feud. Sure.
Yeah, it's the restraining order is such that we can only talk to each other on the Hangout. So
Yeah. Yeah.
just to clarify. But yeah, we were, and it's funny because I was like, oh, get together with your friends and do single guy stuff. Our single guy stuff is basically we sit on the couch and talk about movies. So basically, exactly what we do on the show.
At one point, we talked. I mean, it was like 3 hours straight.
Yeah,
Just
and we were
about-
like, why did we
I
not
mean-
just set up the mic and record?
Yeah, we're
the
like,
show?
we could have just knocked this episode out and just. We're like, this is what we do.
it's our thing.
It's our thing.
But you know what? We did set up the mic, and obviously we had a special episode last week, which I'm assuming if you're listening to this show, you probably heard our last show. But on the off chance that you didn't, it was the first of what we hope will be a series of movie film commentary tracks,
Yep.
wherein we talk up a film of our choosing, and the inaugural entry was a particular favorite of mine. It was the original Planet of the Apes, and I have to say I had an absolute blast, and I actually went back and listened to the show that we put out, and at the risk of tooting our own horn, it turned out pretty good.
Good. I'm glad you think so. I had fun doing it, and I had a friend just tell me that he hadn't checked it out yet because he's like, oh, I haven't seen that film in a long time, so I wasn't sure I'd be able to keep up with it, and I didn't know when I'd be able to queue up the film. And I was saying, we of course had in mind people queuing up the film to play it alongside with, but we also, I know, speaking for myself, I heard on some other website they had done a commentary for the 1989 Batman. And I was just listening to it at work with an earbud in my ear. And I enjoyed it because, I know the movie so well, but they were also just dropping facts and dropping thoughts on the movie. And so it just kind of worked as
knowledge bombs.
dropping knowledge bombs hither and there. And it just kind of played like a podcast. And I think we sort of went into this commentary that we did with that same sort of idea in mind, where, again, you can enjoy it with the movie, but hopefully it's something that if you just want to drive to work or at work and you just need something in your ear, hopefully it's entertaining on its own as well. So yeah, I'd love to hear feedback, frankly.
Well, we got one piece of feedback, and this is from Imran, and he said it was, quote, a nice little gem between the regular bi-weekly podcasts. Highly recommend if you are an Apes fan.
Oh.
So
Oh,
there
great.
you go. So there's one.
Ask and you shall receive.
That's right, and obviously we chose Planet of the Apes partially because, of course, anyone who listens to the show knows that it's a cherished film for me, but also because, of course, the new Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, the sequel, came out this past Friday, so we decided to do the retro commentary as kind of a lead into that. So we've now had a chance to see Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But before we do that, I wanted to play my interview with director Matt Reeves about Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
Very exciting score, by the way, that interview.
Yeah, well, I was able to hit kind of a mother lode with interviews. I got to speak with Matt Reeves. I also spoke with Mark Bomback, who's one of the writers of the film, and we'll be playing his interview later in the episode. But let's go ahead and play my chat with Matt Reeves. And just by way of context, the start of this interview was me showing him my Planet of the Apes fanzine that I published 20 years ago, almost exactly 20 years ago. So we start with that, and we went from there. So let's go ahead and play that. So as we start, I wanted to share something with you. This is a fanzine that I published in 1995.
Oh my God! So 20 years ago.
So cool.
Yeah. So I did this myself. I was in high school. I was a sophomore
really?
in high school at the time.
Wow.
So for me, this is a surreal moment where I wish I could go back in time to myself and be like, one day.
That is so cool. You know, because as a kid, I was so obsessed with Planet of the Apes, and I had all the dolls. I had the tree house, and actually
All the Mego figures.
All the Mego figures. I had the treehouse and the cave set, and the cave set I didn't like because it was basically cardboard. But that
Right.
treehouse was, and actually weirdly, not weirdly, but Michael Giacchino, who I've worked with 2 times before, when we were doing my last film, which was a small film called Let Me In, we were scoring it, and he was working on it inside of an office in his house, which is filled with all of his favorite sort of memorabilia.
Yeah.
And the room had a section of it that was filled with all those dolls, and I was so jealous. I was like, oh my God, those dolls, those are my favorite. I had all of them, and then one day, I guess my parents just threw them away, and we lost them. It was heartbreaking. So on this movie, one day when we were scoring, I showed up at his house, and he was writing the music, and he was going to play me something, and he said, I have a present for you, and it was the treehouse. He had gone onto eBay and got me the treehouse, and so. But I've been obsessed with Planet of the Apes in a crazy way since when I was a kid, and I love that John Chambers makeup and all that stuff. So the Sacred Scrolls and all that, it's just so cool. The one, I loved Planet of the Apes, but the one that also really captivated me, which I thought was terrifying, was Beneath the Planet of the Apes. God, I love that movie.
That scarred a bunch of kids.
So
I think,
scary when they pulled off their faces. I reveal my inmost self and to my God, and you're like, nah.
You know, that's kind of where I wanted to go with my questioning is I think the Apes series is subversive in that this is blockbuster, quote-unquote, family entertainment.
Yeah.
And we end the second film by not just killing our lead, but destroying the Earth.
Yeah.
And saying, that's it.
Yeah.
The Earth is dead.
Yeah.
See you later.
Yeah.
And now...
It does what the best genre films do, which is that they use a fantasy to explore something that's real.
Yeah.
And I think that the great thing about Planet of the Apes, for me, is this notion of the conceit being that the Planet of the Apes, that the apes have taken over, the animals have taken over the world, which is this weird kind of denial in ourselves about the fact that we are animals. And the secret is, of course, that we are animals.
Yeah.
And that this becomes then, it can become, and I think this is what the series does at its best, is an exploration of our nature and the things that sort of tear us apart, and but also the hope for the ways we could come together, and that was very much what I wanted this film to be about. I thought this was knowing the trajectory of trying to think about the original series and the way what I thought was so neat about Rise was it was this crazy origin story that was from a totally new perspective, and that you could be emotionally inside of the apes in a way that was not possible when the original, as much as I love that John Chambers makeup, this emotional identification that happens with Caesar is something totally new, and in a way it's a completely new version of the series, but it still has a knowledge of the other series, the way the Icarus went up and all that stuff, and I thought this was a great chance, if they would let me do it, to come in and do a moment where it could have been Planet of the Humans and the Apes, and see the ways in which that didn't happen, but also see the ways in which it could have happened, and make the movie about empathizing and with all of the characters and sort of anatomy of violence, really, to see where violence comes from.
So and you in the Q&A you alluded to it. I mean, the idea that we do know that we all know where this is headed. This is headed towards Chuck Heston getting chased through a cornfield.
Well, not literally, but yes, exactly.
In a figurative sense, in that once you say Planet of the Apes, there's an iconography.
Planet of the Apes, absolutely.
And people who haven't seen the film know the iconography of it.
Yeah. Well, what's cool, too, is thinking about the younger generations who haven't seen that movie and the idea that they would discover it through this and then they would go back and look at those movies. Like, that's pretty mind-blowing, too.
Well, I mean, my question is, in terms of the original series was bigger than Taylor. It was more.
Sure, absolutely.
So you have essentially 2,000 years of story available to you.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So is this series bigger than Caesar?
I think it is. I think that Caesar is like, he's like a mythic, almost godlike, Moses-like figure for
Is he
the
a tragic
apes.
figure?
I think it is a tragic figure because
He almost has to be.
He has to be, because the truth of the matter is that, as Andy describes, he's connected very deeply to humans and apes. Those are two parts of him, and reconciling that is the struggle of his life, and to be the idea of this story is that this is kind of a mythic moment where there could have been peace, and that moment is missed, and that's what that moment. The whole thing for me was building toward that thing between him and Malcolm at the end,
When
where
they put their heads together.
when they put their heads together,
Closest they'll ever be.
that's the closest
humans
he'll
and
ever be, and it's the last moment of that, and that he has to engage in a fight he doesn't want. How is that going to test him? How is that going to test his leadership? He doesn't want this fight, but this is a fight he knows the die has been cast. He's got to find a way through this, and he knows that he has to protect his family and this burgeoning civilization of apes. It's their survival, and so that's a pretty dark path that he has to go down. And there also is the idea, to me, it's generational. There were other Caesars, right? And the idea, and that was why we tried to sort of reference things like the sacred scrolls and ape shall not kill ape and all these things.
Right.
The idea is, like, for me, what was new was to be able to reference those things, but to see the beginnings of everything. And I felt like that we hadn't seen. That one thing that I wasn't so interested in was starting, when I first came in, the story started, and the apes were very articulate. They already could talk very much like they do in the 68 film, and I was like, wait a minute, we've missed too much. I said, the whole point is, I already know what happened in that film. The question is,
was it
getting
set
there.
further ahead?
I don't actually know the year that it was. I know it must have been, but it couldn't have been so much further because Caesar was still alive.
Right.
But they were, I guess the idea was, the thing about it is, the conceit is, there's a choice that could be made about the ALZ-113. It could have been a conceit that it just gave them the potential for intelligence, or there's the idea that it literally continues to increase their intelligence. And I chose specifically to define it as this was the source of their sentience, of their intelligence, and that I wanted that to be then giving them the potential to become. And because I thought that in Rise, what was so powerful was watching Caesar become and watching him gain the ability to express himself, and that I thought was delicious, and I wanted to see that with the apes, and that was the thing I thought you'd never seen before. I thought we can both do something that's part of this larger legacy, and this larger part of refers to the canon, but at the same time is something you've never seen before, which is the creation of an ape world, and see how this all began, and to see the beginnings of all those things, and see Caesar, who is the sort of seminal figure in ape history.
Yeah, I noted as I was watching it what felt like it almost echoes of Battle for the Planet of the Apes, structurally.
That people have said that. It was not a deliberate intention to actually evoke. I mean, it was more the gestalt of all of the Apes films that we were trying to refer to. And actually, I haven't seen Battle since I was a kid. I'd have to go back and you would think, and actually now that we're going to do the next one, because I'm writing the next one, Mark Bomback, that we would go back and watch. I'm going to go back and watch all the films now. I didn't have time to do that. It was like this was so fast, all of this, and so it was much more my memory of the films and I remembered them really well, especially those two. I mean, Planet of the Apes and Beneath the Planet of the Apes. Those movies, I can't tell you how many times I've watched those movies. I love them so much. So those were probably the most foremost in my mind. But I'm going to go back and watch them all.
Well, what was your entree into this universe? What was that moment when you were like, I dig this?
As a kid?
Yeah.
I mean, it was the first movie, and I would say it was the moment that I'll never forget is that moment when the net was thrown and you look up and you see gorillas on horseback. I mean, that's the craziest. That image is so terrifying and captivating and thrilling at the same time that it's terrifying. And the crazy thing was, I guess in the same way that I later wanted to, of course, you fantasize, about being, Luke Skywalker or Han Solo, but there's part of you that also just so looked at Darth Vader and thought that was the coolest thing ever. And I really kind of loved the way the gorillas looked. I wanted to look like a gorilla. I just thought it was so neat. So.
Well, and they made all those Don Post masks.
Yeah,
very successful,
exactly.
Because of that,
yeah. But the thing that really bummed me out is that the John Chambers makeup had the different latex appliances so they could actually articulate their mouths.
Right.
And I was so upset that I never had a mask where I could articulate the mouth. That bummed me out.
You're referring to Michael Giacchino, and
who, by the way, is as big an apes fan as I am. I mean, he wanted to be an ape when he was a kid. We talked about this. It's so funny. So.
Well, and I wanted to ask about, because I felt, again, I used the term echoes. I felt echoes of Goldsmith.
That's exactly right. I mean, the thing about it is that, first of all, what I love about his score is that Michael, I feel like, is a composer working in a mode that is not done anymore today, which is that he writes memorable themes to movies. He's a filmmaker. He's a storyteller. And when the first thing he played me was a suite that was inspired by a viewing of the version of the movie that was like almost 3 hours long and had like, he was, Andy wearing just his, there was no effects, not a single effect in it. I was horrified having to show it to him. But he so loved the movie, and he wrote this suite, and in it had that theme that plays, the processional theme, and then it plays at the end. And I was so moved. I felt like it was like some classic, somehow he'd written anew a classic theme. I was like, this feels like Dances with Wolves or like, a John Barry thing. It sounds like, Out of Africa. Like, wow, it's so beautiful and expansive and epic. I said, that's the movie we have to make. I said, I don't know if we've made that movie yet, but that's the movie I want to make. But part of the thing that we were really aware of and that Michael really wanted to do was pay homage to the Jerry Goldsmith score. So there are little subtle, playful things. Like literally there are these bowls that one of our percussionists, Emil, played on the original. We literally have the percussionist from the original film playing on the film, and he played these bowls that were made, that Emil had made, for Jerry Goldsmith's score. And he talked to Michael, and Michael said, can we make a new set? I don't want to make the exact same. I want its own sound. And so we had these percussive bowls, and he did stuff with the xylophone and, the mallets and all that stuff. And so all of those little homages that you're picking up were intentional. Michael was really careful about wanting to sort of pay homage to where this film series came from.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, really
Thank
cool.
you so much.
My pleasure.
All right.
Very cool. I mean, I have to say, we've had some really exciting interviews on this show. I mean, Jon Favreau, Seth Rogen, people have been very exciting. But, I mean, Matt Reeves, I mean, we're going to get into how we feel about this film. But obviously, he's an accomplished director in his own right. But I feel like his star is just going to keep rising and rising. And he's going to become one of the few where you know his name and you know his movies. So, very exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to save our commentary a little bit because we've got a lot to say about the film.
Yeah.
But we do have some headlines to discuss before we move forward. So let's go ahead and get that going. Now, first of all, sorry. In terms of headlines, this was something I wanted to bring up because you talked about it with me when I was out there. The Strain. This is the new TV series by Guillermo del Toro. And you mentioned this to me, and I was wondering if you could share this story with the audience because I think it's a fascinating insight into who listens to who in the world.
Yeah. Well, Guillermo del Toro has a show called The Strain, which I think is already debuted on FX, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, this past weekend it did. That's right.
Yeah. So the no pun intended, eye-grabbing poster for this that they've put on bus benches and billboards and in an enormous billboard on the Fox Studios is this eyeball with like a mealworm looking thing coming out of the eyeball.
Yeah.
It's just disgusting. And so I've had people on my Facebook commenting about it. I have people who work at Fox that I know who are like, I have to drive in every day and look at this damn thing. This big billboard. And so it was just one of those things where I was like, oh, that's gross. But then I started seeing articles about how people have been complaining about it, but it wasn't until celebrities started complaining about it. Nicholas Stoller, right, the director, he tweeted something about paraphrasing, but something like, people have kids in the city who don't need to have nightmares. What's up with these billboards? And so anyway, all these famous people's tweets started getting retweeted, and then all of a sudden they started taking the billboards down. So if you got a problem, folks, get a celebrity to say something about it, and you can get stuff taken care of. So
well, it's kind of
how we get it done in this town, Zachy.
I know. Well, now we know, right? I saw that poster and then I discussed it with you, and then I read a story just the other day about this woman in Taiwan who left her contacts in for 6 months.
Oh, yeah.
Did you hear the story?
I saw the headline. I didn't go further.
She left her contacts in for 6 months, which is an insanely idiotic thing to do. So
Right.
on one level, this is a horrifying story. On the other hand, it's hard to feel too much sympathy. Yeah. But essentially, she created kind of this airtight seal, and the amoeba that thrived within that airtight seal effectively ate her cornea.
Ugh.
And so I read that story, and immediately I'm thinking of the poster for The Strain.
So I don't know. Maybe it's preventative having those.
Perhaps that's maybe Guillermo del Toro. There's some wisdom there.
Yeah, maybe.
Now, so that's obviously that's just on one level it's interesting, on one level it's horrifying. But while we're talking about strains of virus that eat at your eyeballs, I also wanted to mention that there is a Power Rangers movie in the works.
I just saw this.
Yeah, and it's being written by the people who wrote for X-Men First Class and Thor.
What?
Yeah.
I mean, I know a lot of Power Rangers was one of those things where, and I'm not disparaging it because I didn't grow up with it personally. I think Ninja Turtles was my last sort of
Power Rangers-esque
thing. Like I remember sort of, I'll always love Ninja Turtles, but I remember like I'm getting a little bit older and I'm watching different things, and that was kind of like my last cartoon adventure series. But I remember Power Rangers came right after that, so I just missed it. But from what I understand, I could be wrong on this, but the way Power Rangers was put together was they hired American actors to do a couple scenes where they talked to each other, but then all the action and everything else was just like cannibalized from some other show that was made overseas.
Now, this was the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Okay.
Because there have been like 83 different series that have, like, they've never stopped making these shows.
Okay.
So I have no authority on how they did it in the subsequent series, but yeah, the original one. In fact, the Yellow Ranger, who was played by a woman, was actually a man in the Japanese version.
In the suit.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
So her chest disappeared essentially.
Well, see, and what the point I'm trying to make is that I am not endeared to the show. I'm not disparaging the show, but to me, it was always like, I remember watching Ultraman. Do you remember watching that?
I remember Ultraman, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't a good show, but it was like fun, and I liked it when I was a kid. So it's just really interesting that what I always thought was just kind of this corny, silly little, show that was pieced together with all sorts of different pieces and made into a thing they know kids would watch is now being turned into this apparently major motion picture. I mean, going to be written by the guy who wrote one of the best superhero movies of the past couple of years.
That's right, and it's being executive produced by Roberto Orci.
Yeah. So
and it's funny because
I don't know.
I saw a picture the other day of Jason David Frank, who played the Green Ranger. And also the White Ranger, and it was at a comic convention of some kind. It was one of those when you pay to get a picture with a celebrity and there's the backdrop, you know what I'm talking about. And so it was Jason David Frank in costume with Norman Reedus, who plays Daryl Dixon on The Walking Dead. And I saw that picture and I was like, who paid to take a picture with who?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One of my memories from my childhood, because I did not watch Power Rangers because that was a little bit after my time. But Jason David Frank, he became the White Ranger shortly thereafter. Shortly after the show began, and became a very popular character. And I just remember these kids running around my neighborhood being like, "White Power Ranger," which was just incredibly uncomfortable because one of the kids is black. So I didn't understand that. But, the Lord giveth, the Lord taketh away, and Roberto Orci, while he has taken on the task of shepherding the Power Rangers to the screen, one franchise he has removed himself from is a franchise that's hit a little bit of a rough patch. And
Spider-Man.
That's right. Where are you coming from, Spider-Man? We don't know. We don't know.
Yep.
Now, we've talked about this on the show. Sony had big plans.
Oh man, they had it mapped out.
They had it. They had the map written out. They were like, "We're going to have this spin-off nobody cares about this year. We're going to have this spin-off nobody cares about this year, and then we're going to have the eventual sequel that fewer and fewer people seem to care about this year."
Yeah, and they're like, "It's all going to begin with Spider-Man 2 making $1 billion. Go."
So they stumbled at go.
Yeah. It's where is it at? About 700 million. worldwide,
Yeah,
I think.
it seems like it's choking and wheezing its way to around 700 million, which is nothing to sneeze at, by the
No,
way.
not at all. Not at all. It's just such a weird thing because even you and I both thought the movie was okay. I mean
Yeah.
we didn't hate it.
Yeah,
But at the same
exactly.
time, it's like every movie now, it's almost like if you're this thing, if you're a comic book movie, if you're a whatever, 150 million plus budgeted movie, you have to make 700 million plus to be considered a success. It's like that's the mold now. So it's almost like you're just destined to fail,
Right.
even when you're succeeding. It's very weird.
It's weird, and I mean the truth of it is that simply there's just not enough meat in Spider-Man alone as a character for Sony to spin. Sony wants essentially a one-man Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yes.
And they should have known that was not a tenable goal, and if they were smart, they would just work on turning. You know what it's like? I'll tell you what it's like. It's like the James Bond franchise being like, oh, we want to do a movie about the Spectre organization. We want to do a whole movie about Blofeld. We want to do the backstory of Q, and it's like we don't care about any of those things except as far as how they intersect with James Bond.
Right.
So I liked Q in Skyfall, right? Ben Whishaw, he was really good, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to see Q the movie?
No.
No, you just want them to put out a new Bond movie every couple of years.
Yeah.
And if that were their focus with Spider-Man, just every 2 to 4 years, get out another Spider-Man movie. I don't think anybody would have any complaints about it.
But how about this? So I don't even know how many Bond movies there are. Lots. And the past
23.
several, 23? So
Yes.
the past several with Daniel Craig have all been, good.
Yes.
And the next one I'm looking forward to. But these Spider-Man films, why are they running out of steam? I mean,
So you know what? Here's what it is. I'll tell you. The sort of the original sin of the Spider-Man franchise is in the decision to reboot it with the fourth movie. Because I'm somebody who liked Amazing Spider-Man. I know you did not like it as much as I did, but would it have been that much of a change had they simply made it a sequel? And I mean, there would have been a few tweaks here and there, but it's a sequel with a new actor. I think that would have been less damaging than the cold restart.
Yeah.
Because I think people like seeing the characters progress.
Sure.
People like their stories to matter.
Right.
So essentially what the Amazing Spider-Man did was to say, okay, those 3 previous movies, the previous 10 years that you invested don't matter anymore because now there's this.
Right.
And think about it, like Star Trek rebooted, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it went out of its way to say, but everything else before this still counts.
Right.
Right? James Bond rebooted, but if you notice, like where Skyfall ends, it's almost like it leads into every other movie that came after.
Right.
So, in other words, I mean, this is all fiction, right? But people like to cherish their fictions.
Right.
And I think that's my theory on it, honestly, is that there's resentment over the reboot, despite the fact that I think the sort of the status quo post reboot is still very strong.
Yeah.
You got a good cast. The storyline is very good, but that's it. That's what it is, And so I think if the next movie they dial it back a little bit and they focus more on the main character and not on trying to set up this expanded universe that no one cares about, they might be in better shape.
Sure.
That's my theory anyway.
Yeah. I'll buy that.
Yeah, I mean it's they're bringing back so much stuff. I think Spider-Man the franchise will never go away. But if by virtue of Sony sort of shuffling its deck and possibly saying, all right, we don't need a Venom movie, we don't need a Sinister Six movie, I don't think anybody's going to miss that if that ends up being the case.
No.
That's my theory on that.
Yeah, and maybe if they dial up the fun a little bit more. I mean, when I think of those 2 Amazing Spider-Man movies, they feel sort of melodramatic.
Sure.
And that's fine. Not every movie has to feel the same, but, I don't think that's going to make you $1 billion. You
Right.
get a little more mopey, which is weird because Spider-Man's supposed to be sort of a poppy character, right? Kind of a fun-loving.
Yeah, I mean, well, and I think what the new films have really gotten is the wisecracking.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's tough. There's a lot that they have to work with, but it can be problematic
Yeah.
to get all these elements to work.
Well, we'll see what
And-
they do.
Now, very briefly, before we kind of dive fully into our apes conversation, because we do have my interview with Mark Bomback, I wanted to play the audio from the new trailer for the newest Marvel Comics adaptation. Have you seen this?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, this is the new film from Disney. It's the newest Marvel property. And
Yes.
It's called Big Hero 6.
Yes.
So let's go ahead and play a snippet of that audio.
All right, let me get this straight. A man in a kabuki mask attacked you with an army of miniature flying robots.
Microbots. Baymax, tell him.
Yes, officer.
Microbots.
Yeah, he was controlling them telepathically with a neurocranial transmitter. Come on!
I am not fast.
Yeah, no kidding! Go, 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 go!
All right, so have you had a chance to see the trailer, Brian?
No, sorry. I didn't know we were going to look at this tonight.
Sorry, this is kind of a seat of your pants episode. What kind of?
A little bit. It kind of in some ways is. But I did see the teaser.
Okay,
So
okay.
I've kind of got a feel for the tone of what it looks like they're going for here.
Well, it looks like a Pixar movie.
It does. Yeah.
And this is a property. It's very weird. It's a very odd decision on Disney's part to turn this into a feature adaptation, because this was like a mini series that Marvel published in the late 90s. And it's called Big Hero 6 because it's meant to be kind of an homage to Japanese anime type of characters. And it's actually tied in with the X-Men universe, but I'm assuming the film has sort of removed all the X-Men elements. But it looks really fun.
Yeah, it looks really cute from what I can see. I mean, and for being a Marvel film, I mean, this does feel like it skews on the more Disney end of things, where there's sort of like a playfulness to it, kind of a I don't want to use the word like childish because it's not this childish, but it looks like it'll be younger audiences, something that they can easily latch onto.
Yeah, and watching the trailer, and I was like, well, I hope that does well. It seems to be doing, it seems to be doing the thing as far as getting me interested. But it got me thinking about how, kids movies have been kind of hit or miss this year, and specifically, How to Train Your Dragon has disappointed.
Yeah, which is weird because again, I haven't seen it, unfortunately, but I know you liked it, and from everything I've read and people I've talked to, I mean, it's very good. From what I understand, so it's
How to Train Your Dragon, as far as I'm concerned, is one of the best movies of the year.
yeah.
So the fact that I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I mean it's definitely being perceived as if not a flop, at least a disappointment.
Yeah, DreamWorks stock has dropped over this.
Wow, that's just bizarre to me.
Yeah, well, and what is its competition? I mean, there aren't any other animated films out except for Planes 2, which, from what I understand, isn't even out yet. So
Planes 2 comes out next week, and I'm very grateful that my kids are out of town this week so that I don't have to take them to the press screening of that movie.
yeah,
Because watching the first Planes was probably one of the worst experiences of my life. Not worst experiences at the movies of my life. So I include like failing my driving test and
yeah,
all of that.
retaking my SATs.
Yeah, all of those things. But watching the first Planes, and it's weird because the first Planes came out last year. So this is how like after a tragedy somebody will make a joke.
Yeah,
And you're like, dude, too soon.
yeah.
That's how I felt when I saw the trailer for Planes 2. I was like, dude, too soon.
Too soon.
Yeah. But so yeah, I guess Big Hero 6 comes out later this year, and I think that's going to be fun. But folks, go see How to Train Your Dragon 2. It is so good.
Yeah.
It is so good.
That, and I'll do it again. Edge of Tomorrow. What is up, people? Go see Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah, take your kids double feature of How to Train Your Dragon and Edge of Tomorrow.
Edge of Tomorrow, it's...
Actually, don't do that, probably.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I was going to say, maybe your older kids, but...
Don't do what I just... But...
No, Edge of Tomorrow is probably... it is definitely one of the best movies of the summer.
I agree with you, yeah.
It's going to be in my top 10 at the end of the year.
I'm reasonably certain mine as well.
Fun. It's super fun.
Yeah.
This is you're looking for the good summer movie. It's Edge of Tomorrow. So I just go see it.
Yeah.
I have all these cynical people, on my Facebook page that normally put these cynical posts, and I've seen them dude, I just saw Edge of Tomorrow. What is the deal? Everybody, go see this.
Yeah.
So that's everybody's response who's seen it.
Y'all have already made Transformers the #1 movie of the year. You've done your damage.
Yeah.
Now make up for that.
Yeah, I'm serious. Edge of Tomorrow has my guarantee, my personal guarantee.
You've done your bad deed. Now do a good deed and wipe it out.
Yeah.
But now of course, Edge of Tomorrow is one of the best movies of the summer. But the focus of this episode is what I would argue is also one of the best movies of the summer, and that is, of course, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Now, we played my chat with Matt Reeves. Why don't we go ahead and play my conversation with Mark Bomback, who co-wrote the film, along with Rick Jaffa and Amanda Silver, who are the co-producers as well. Let's go ahead and play that, please. So I had a very lengthy conversation with Matt Reeves just a little over a week ago, and he was talking to me about the creative process as far as how he got involved, and I was wondering, I wanted to pivot off of that and get your take on where was the story at before you got involved, and what were some of the changes that you made in terms of making it sort of the version that we now see in the theaters?
Well, the story was set not much further in the future than where we set our story, but was from the point of view of the human survivors in San Francisco, and the apes sort of entered that storyline, and the story is all set in the city. And Rupert Wyatt, director of Rise, had been developing a version of that with Rick and Amanda, the screenwriters from Rise, and I don't know the exact circumstances by which Rick and Amanda decided to take a break, but regardless, Fox had done a bit of rewriting in production on Rise, and so I knew the players and I knew the franchise a bit. And so the studio said, "Would you want to come in and work with Rupert a bit?" As we're nearing production, and I knew that Rupert was pretty stressed out about trying to make the start date, and so I got hired for what would ostensibly be not a lot of work. And within the first week of my getting hired, Rupert had made the decision, I just can't make the start date that they're asking for.
Oh, wow.
And wound up leaving the film. Under good terms, but nevertheless, now suddenly the studio had just hired me, and all bets were up in terms of how it was going to get to the finish line. And so the executives at the studio said, "Well, whoever we hire, would you want to meet with them and hear what their thoughts are?" And I said, "Of course." And so Matt had come in and given a pretty radical take, which is, why are we making this a human story? This is, everybody loves Caesar more than anything from the last film. Why aren't we making it an ape-centric story? And so when I heard that, I immediately knew we were looking at a pretty drastic overhaul script-wise. I think the studio was a little bit more wishful in their thinking that it wasn't going to do that big an overhaul. But sure enough, once Matt and I sat down, we realized we don't even have a usable script at this point when you come at it from that approach. And so we wound up sort of going back to the drawing board and actually working up almost like a treatment for the film. And it was a bit unusual. I've actually never worked this way, where departments were already hired.
Right.
We had an art department, and we're prepping for a film that at this point they could really only prep for off of treatment.
Right.
And so the treatment wound up having to be pretty involved to make sure they understood what we were asking for. But this is a technically difficult film, even if you had a document that was every I dotted and every T crossed. So it was kind of crazy. And just very fortunately, Matt and I, it was an arranged marriage to an extent, and we were very fortunate in that we got along really well pretty quickly. And after sort of smelling each other out, we found that we had sort of different strengths and weaknesses, and were able to complement each other that way. And so it worked out great. And so what I thought would be a relatively short amount of time became like a year and a half of my life.
Wow. Now, Matt has talked at length about sort of his history with the franchise and having grown up as a fan. Did you come at it as a longtime fan, or was this kind of unexplored territory for you?
I was a fan to the extent that I liked the original film. I'm a little, I was born in '71. So right. I can't remember when I first saw the film, but I know that I saw it on television. Sure,
the franchise had kind of passed you by probably by the time you were old enough to appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, I knew of it as the periodic cartoons come past my eyes. And again, I was sort of always intrigued by the universe of it, but I wasn't one of those people who obsessed about it. Matt was certainly more of an apes geek than I was as a kid. And then when I sort of got reintroduced to the world of apes again was when they were only a couple of weeks out from starting to film Rise, and they needed another brain in the room, and they sent me Rick and Amanda script, and when I got the script, I said, I'm not like apes maven, like I'm wondering if maybe there's a better fit for this, and I started reading it. And I was like, oh my God, this is like the best episode of The Twilight Zone I ever saw. It was just like a humongous, completely, like a movie that would never get made were it not being called Planet of the Apes. It was such an unusual, interesting story. And so I then got really into it in a very short amount of time. And again, I didn't work on Rise for very long, but I worked on it just enough to want to, sort of immerse myself in Ape lore. Yeah. And so watched all the old films again. And then with Dawn, when I knew it was going to be a longer haul, again, really tried to refresh my memory. But no, I don't have it's either a blessing or a burden, I don't know which, to be that enthralled with the universe of apes, but it gives me a certain objectivity that's probably as valuable from the writing point of view.
Well, and I think that's a good point. I mean, you do have a certain degree of objectivity, so I would love to get your perspective. I mean, this is a property that, even through fits and starts, it's never been far from sort of the collective conscience, since it came out in 1968 to now. The phrase Planet of the Apes is something that even people who have never seen the movie sort of have an image that comes to mind.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you attribute that to? Where does the longevity of this series come from?
Someone suggested to me that it has some weird subconscious relationship to evolution and our struggles with our belief in evolution. I don't know if I subscribe to that entirely, but I do think that the notion that we are all fundamentally animals is something that we don't deal with very much on a daily basis. We sort of are aware of it. I know it's like I'll be on a buffet line or something, and I'll watch people gorging themselves around me, and you'll suddenly be struck by that notion of, wow, we're really just animals, Right. And I think that it is a very rare piece of fiction that gets to the real core of that. What separates us from our simian ancestors is simply just years. And I think that, coupled with this other notion, which is like, it's a great way to explore the very fundamental, rules of what it means to be human, in a way that if you didn't do it through the lens of, this is a parallel version of ourselves, would be a little too didactic and probably a little corny,
Right.
But when you have this remove that science fiction allows you to have, you just are able to think about things in this complex way, and I think there's a joy in that. It's like a lot of movies are ways of, if you think of movies as sort of experiencing a dream. They're a way of working out some kind of anxiety that you didn't know you even had sometimes. And I think the Apes franchise certainly gives you this landscape, where suddenly we're looking at ourselves as a version of ourselves that were at once more animalistic and in some ways actually very intellectual, and that struggle between the two.
Right.
Again, I think it speaks to something that not a lot of fiction speaks to, and I think that's why it pops in a way that it does.
Well, and I've heard both you and Matt talk in interviews about how this film is kind of that moment where it could have been the planet of humans and apes.
Yeah.
And so, this in a way, it's kind of the pivot point. So now, obviously, you're already working on the next run, and I'm not even going to try to get anything out of you about that. But in
there was much to get. We're really in the nascent stage of figuring it out.
Well, and I mean, I would love to pick your brain about just in conceptual terms. Do you see this as a franchise that you've essentially got 2,000 years of road ahead of you in terms of the story you can tell. How far would you personally like to see the franchise go?
Well, I think that it's a difficult question to answer because, in a way, that it doesn't get so much. The road is almost too open, and so I think 10 years from the last film to this film felt about right on the timeline.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I won't even speak to what the timeline will be between this film and the next, but it's an odd thing in that you know where it's ultimately going to land.
Right.
It might not land in the exact specifics of the 1968 film, but again, it's not Planet of the Apes. And so it's all about the journey of how we get there. It's not totally unlike, I think, better serialized TV programs now that it's about how much do you invest in the characters, how much time do you want to spend with them, and at what point are you going to feel like you've traveled with them in a way that feels like it's satisfying to say goodbye. So I don't totally know. All I can say is, for me personally, it's more to do with these characters that we've been creating, and less to do with the 2,000-year timeline.
Sure.
That's how at least, it's the only way I can approach it right now. So that's how we think of it.
So it's kind of just let's get these characters out there and just see where they take us.
Yeah, certainly the crass answer is, well, as long as people are showing up to buy tickets to see these movies, I'm sure we'll make as many. But honestly, that to me is like, first of all, it's not really my department, but I think things ultimately do overstay their welcome sometimes. So it'll be interesting to see where this franchise ultimately feels comfortable saying, okay, we've sort of traveled the journey here. We're ready to link you back up to 1968.
Right.
Storyline, and then I have to assume that Fox will then figure out what to move you forward from that point onward too.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Well, Mark, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. It was great to converse with you. Thank you so much.
I'm glad you liked the film.
All right.
Two for two, Zachy. Well, now you've mentioned this, I think, in a previous episode, but did you talk about how you got these interviews? That you went to the world premiere, right?
Went to the world premiere, and I feel very, I was talking to my wife earlier this week, and I was mentioning all the ape stuff I've been doing lately, and she was like, man, I wish you could have been involved somehow, because she knows what a big Apes fan I am.
Yeah.
That was actually shortly after we got married. She was like, "Oh, what's your favorite movie?" I said, "Oh, Planet of the Apes." She said, "Oh, I want to see that," and I was like, "Uh-oh," because I was like, if she didn't like Planet of the Apes, it would have been I don't think this is going to work kind of a moment. So I'm glad that ended well for everybody. But she was like, "Oh, I wish you could have been involved," and I said, "Look, man, when Rise of the Planet of the Apes came out, I was there opening night.
Yeah.
When the sequel came out 3 years later, I was there at the global world premiere mingling with the cast and crew. I think I did okay."
Well, you posted a picture of you and director Matt Reeves. Well, Matt Reeves is holding, like you said earlier, your fanzine that you wrote years and years and years ago when you were, it wasn't like cool to like this movie. This was just something you didn't care if it was in the zeitgeist. It was something you just
didn't care if girls liked me. I didn't care if people made fun of me.
But I mean, now people would be like, oh, yeah, Planet of the Apes, right, sure, yeah, I like that. But this was like, it wasn't in the consciousness then. And now you've got, it all comes full circle is what I'm saying.
I beat the zeitgeist by 20 years. I deserve some kind of weird, like, temporal prize. Like, I want Doc Brown to come up in his time in the DeLorean and just, hand me a medal in 1994.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's my point is I mean, it never, I think even back then there was now bear in mind, like when I was doing that fanzine, even back then there were intimations of a new Planet of the Apes movie because Fox has been trying forever and always to bring this thing back, right?
Right.
And at the time, because I actually went back and I was digging through those old fanzines. By the way, just by way of context, I published about 5 of these myself. This is pre-internet.
Yeah, for people who don't know what a fanzine is, it was like the equivalent of a blog before anyone did that on the internet. Like, you like made your own articles, you made your own little magazine, and you self-printed this thing, and you mailed it out to subscribers.
Yeah. So I used to go to Kinko's like 4 times a year, and I'd drop, $150 or whatever. Like, it was a substantial amount of money for a high school student with no job. And that was ultimately the reason I stopped doing it, because I just couldn't afford it. Yeah. But so I was going through some of these, and I was remembering how in the early to mid 90s there was a take on Planet of the Apes that was going to be produced by Oliver Stone.
Huh.
And it was going to be directed by Philip Noyce, and it was going to star, this is absolutely true, I'm not making this up, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah.
It's like ringing a weird little bell. I'm sure I heard it from you.
Because back then, Arnold was the biggest star in the world.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So, just imagine that, right? Get your stinking paws off me, damn dirty ape! It's a madhouse!
Oh, man, that would have been fun.
Damn you all! Damn you! Damn you! You blew my cover!
Get to the chopper!
So I'm glad that didn't happen, but that almost happened. That's how close it came.
Wow.
It was very interesting to just in the lead up to our commentary track and everything. I just went back and I was kind of retracing the development of what eventually became the 2001 Tim Burton remake.
Yeah.
To see what ended up there. But with that, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes is our spoiler wall movie for this week. So, Brian, why don't we share well, you know what? I've already shared my thoughts on this. Pretty much everyone knows what I think. You just saw it yesterday?
Saw it last night, yeah.
Last night. That's how dedicated Brian is. He at 11 o'clock at night, he was like, I have to talk about this on the show. By God, I will talk about this on the show.
Yeah, that's kind of how it happened.
So that's what I love about this guy. So why don't you do your non-spoiler take on the movie, and then we will hopscotch over the spoiler wall.
I think people who have been looking for general responses to this movie have noticed that they have been very, very positive, and so that's always difficult. I'm like, don't tell me how good something is. I just want to go in and experience it, and then I don't want to feel like, is it living up to what I think it is and whatever, what I've heard. And I was happy to see that this movie does live up to everything that I had heard. I mean, this is a movie that starts off for the first 15 minutes with just apes by themselves speaking in sign language. So, I mean, there's no English language happening here, no dialogue. And it's really, from moment one, you are hooked. You are in this world and you are invested. And these apes, they look very similar, but they have, distinguishing features and whatever. You can tell them apart. You like this guy, you don't like that guy. And, the movie just takes it from there and then just goes on this really thoughtful, journey. And, I have to say, just as a story, I was really invested. I really cared about the apes. I cared about the humans. And they each had goals that I was, invested in. And then just to top it all off, what made this so good was, I was thinking about this, when you have a movie that works really well, there's just so many things that have to work right. And with this movie, it's hard enough to write a good script, right? Just to have a good script is just really damn difficult. And this movie has a great script, and then it has to be good actors to carry out the fact that you have like a human being surrounded by apes, and he's not surrounded by apes. He's surrounded by like dudes in suits with like equipment hooked up to them, and you are not aware of that at all while you're watching this movie. You know what I mean? These apes are like there, and you buy what the actors are selling. Then, you have a director who can capture it accurately. And then on top of that, you have mounds and mounds of visual effects that are just a requirement with a film like this, and those work. So, I mean, just to have all of these things come together, an amazing score by Michael Giacchino, and I was just really happy that it all just came together. It's a good. There's a lot of adventure going on, but there's also a lot of emotional investment people are going to have in this also. So yeah, I'm a big fan of this movie. I thought it was really, really good.
So that's a thumbs up?
Thumbs up, yeah. A standout, I would say, for like a blockbuster.
So shall we talk some spoilers?
Let's do it. Let's dive.
So let's get into this. So now, Brian, you did see Rise of the Planet of the Apes a couple years ago?
I did.
What was your impression of that film?
I saw it because I was able to go to a screening, and I have to say, I know people were saying they liked it, but I don't know that I would have checked it out immediately. It was something I would have gotten to. And I went and checked it out because it was available to me, and I was pleasantly surprised by it. Just because, this is the tricky thing about these movies, is we know where this is going. Like, we know with the very first movie from 1968, apes will run this planet and humans will, be subordinate to them. Yeah. So how do you make it interesting telling the story where humans are going to lose? We know that. So how do you tell an interesting story? And what Rise of the Planet of the Apes did so well was it got us invested in how does this start? So they get you to sympathize with some of the apes because you kind of have to. Yeah. But at the same time, I very much sympathize with the humans and what was going on. There are bad people and there are good people, and it just told a really interesting and surprisingly sort of nuanced story about how something like that could begin. Instead of just apes turning violent and beating everybody up and making it sort of like a horror picture, like a zombie film where it's like bad this conquers that. It was actually a really good story. So I was looking forward to this one because I was looking forward to going back to this world.
Sure.
So that's my connection with the first one. And you, I guess, needless to say, you enjoyed that one.
I did, and my appreciation for Rise of the Planet of the Apes, which I definitely think it's an above average summer movie. I wouldn't say, my appreciation was tempered by the fact that I'm a fan of the franchise. Mm-hmm. And so I came into it with that certain knowledge of like, okay, well, I can appreciate this because of how it's going. And, and it's worth pointing out, when Rise of the Planet of the Apes began its development life, it was titled Caesar.
Right.
That was the title of the movie. And then at some point it became Caesar, Rise of the Apes. And then, pretty far along, it then became Rise of the Planet of the Apes. And I remember thinking at the time how with a title like Caesar, it became a tangentially connected to the Planet of the Apes franchise.
Right.
Whereas by specifically, having the words Planet of the Apes in the title, that brings with it a new specific set of expectations mm-hmm. that I think give more depth to the story. Because it allows you to play on those expectations, right? And this is something that I mentioned with Matt Reeves earlier in the interview, right? When you say Planet of the Apes, there's a specific iconography that it draws to mind, and that iconography, by the way, is so powerful that even people who've not seen the film, the original film, know it.
Right.
They're aware of it. They know the Statue of Liberty.
Right.
And I think that's something you can't even say about the ending to like Citizen Kane.
Right.
Like people who haven't seen the movie know the ending of Citizen Kane. Planet of the Apes, people who have not seen the movie know the ending.
Right.
Many people, I should say. My wife actually was one of the few people who did not know the ending. She was genuinely taken by surprise by that ending.
That must have been fun.
Yeah. So she's like, "What? They're on Earth?" So, oh, sorry, spoiler. They're on Earth. I don't know why that would be a spoiler by this point. But so with Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, I appreciated how it advances the ball but not too far.
Yeah. And it didn't feel like it was held back either. Like, okay, we have to just stick in this little area allotted for us here. Like, it told a story worth telling and that I was invested in within its space, like you say, without, feeling like you had to jump too far ahead or anything.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, okay, so that's, I think, a good segue into sort of talking about the performances. My contention is that other than Jason Clarke, the human performances are the performances are good, but the characters aren't particularly sketched out very well.
No, not given a whole lot to do.
I feel like the biggest disappointment on that score is Gary Oldman.
Yeah, he's I think this is one of those instances where doesn't really have much of a personality, or not a personality, but I don't get him.
Yeah.
But because it's Gary Oldman and he like gives it his all, you just buy him.
Right.
I
mean, Gary Oldman plays Dreyfus, who's the leader of the humans, and really only by implication he hates the apes.
Right.
It's actually very interesting because if you watch the trailers, you get the sense that he's much more of an actor in the final act of the film than he ends up being.
Right.
Because it almost, maybe this is wrong, but my impression is it feels like a lot of his role got left on the cutting room floor.
I could see that.
Because we lead up to the moment where he sacrifices himself for what he believes in.
Yeah.
And that moment rang very hollow to me.
Sure.
I mean...
Yeah, I mean, that should have been like a huge... Yeah, like this guy believes in this so much that he's willing to sacrifice himself.
Yeah.
For the cause that he believes in. But yeah, I mean, they give him that moment with the iPad where he's looking at his family.
Which is great, which is a terrific...
a really, really strong moment. But I don't know. Like, it's funny, I didn't know exactly how to feel during that moment. I was like, am I supposed to... Is this filling him with rage?
Yeah.
Or I was like, is this, like, he's just so happy to have the power back so he can see his family again?
Yeah.
He's overwhelmed with just emotion.
Well, it felt like a lot of the dialogue that they gave Kirk Acevedo, who plays... God, I don't even know the guy's name, but he's with Jason Clarke's group, and he's kind of the anti-ape character who eventually gets killed. I was like, a lot of the dialogue... What's that?
The troublemaker.
The troublemaker. And what's funny is that he plays a very similar character on The Walking Dead.
Oh, funny.
So I'm just like, is Kirk Acevedo like the go-to post-apocalyptic douchebag? Like...
Well, I have to say, when they came back, because he's what starts the whole problem in this film is he's walking through the woods and he encounters these two little apes and he shoots one of them. I have to say, I'm one of those people that I react pretty heavily when I watch movies. I say, oh no, and things like that.
You cry.
But when he shot the ape, I seriously gasped. Like, it caught me by surprise and freaked me out. Like, I felt a huge well of emotions when it happened. So
wow.
So
there
you go, Weta. I just bought it. I mean, the movie, like I said, the movie starts off with about 15 minutes of ape life, and so I felt like I knew this ape. Like I saw it starts with a father and son, and they're on a hunt, and the son won't listen to the father, and it's just, it doesn't matter that they're not talking. It doesn't matter that they're CGI creations. Like, you buy it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I was scared for the ape. I didn't want it to get hurt. So anyway, so he shoots it and the apes come out and they do this standoff with the humans that are wandering through the woods, and you're freaked out and the humans leave. So anyway,
and that's the scene, by the way, where we get the first ape dialogue in the film.
Yeah. Go.
Right, which is it's staged so wonderfully.
Yeah, and it totally works too.
Yeah.
But anyway, so then the whole story of this movie is that the humans need, in a couple of weeks, they're going to run out of any power that they have going right now, and there's a dam that if they can activate it, they'll get the power that they need in the community, the village, or whatever they're holed up in right now. But it's on ape land, and so they're going to negotiate with the apes to let them work on this dam and get the power going for them. But for some reason, when the team returns and the apes agree to let them come back, I was like, why would they bring that instigator with them? Because he shot one of their people. It just seemed like a bad planning to have that guy with them.
Although he doesn't. I mean, he doesn't really. Oh well, he does. Yeah, he ends up causing some more trouble.
Yeah, he messes it all up really.
But moving. Oh, and by the way, Jason Clarke is just fantastic in this movie.
He's like one of those effortless actors.
Yeah.
He's in I was gonna say Black Hawk Down. What's it called? Zero Dark 30.
Yeah.
A handful
White
of
House
things.
Down. White House Down.
Yeah, he's just one of those guys. Like he's not acting. Like I can't know how else. I don't know how else to put it. He's just one of those effortless dudes.
Well, let me put it this way. I didn't know he was Australian until I attended the press day.
Okay, well, I didn't either. So, all right, he's even more amazing than I realized.
He has this thick Aussie accent, and I was like, holy moly, I had no idea.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but seeing him in this has me very enthused about seeing him as John Connor.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's saying something, considering that I think everyone was excited to see Christian Bale be John Connor.
Don't you do that, Zeki.
And I don't think anybody walked away from that movie being like, nailed it, you know?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I'm just thinking, like, the alchemy of Christian Bale as John Connor. Every fan of the Terminator was like, "Oh my God, are you kidding me?"
Christian Bale. And it's funny.
Yeah.
During the Terminator 4 movie, my brother actually turned to me during the movie. I remember this, and he goes, "Is Christian Bale a good actor?"
It's so true.
Yeah.
No, before it came out, we were like, Christian Bale, are you kidding me? And then at the end, we were like, Christian Bale, are you kidding me? Like, you know. But I seeing Jason Clarke in this, I was definitely like, and he's, again, just the way Kirk Acevedo is like the go-to douchebag.
Yeah.
Jason Clarke, he's got the ape apocalypse and the robot apocalypse sewn up. So just get him in a zombie movie, and he'll have all the bases covered.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was great, and I really, I loved the arc of both him and Caesar as the peacemakers.
Yeah.
And the way it leads up to, I asked Matt Reeves this in that interview where I said, is Caesar a tragic figure? And he said, yeah, I think he is. He says, I think he has to be.
Yeah.
And I think that, to me at least, is at least partially the appeal of this series, is that we're watching what we know is going to be a tragic ending.
Right.
Not beyond the overall tragedy of the fact that human beings are going to be subjugated. Because I think in the context of the films, it's almost like we have it coming, because we're just horrible. But the tragedy is that Caesar wants peace.
Well, and so, yeah, exactly. And so does the Jason Clarke character. And what I felt during it was like, I hate that this has become a cliche, but seriously, like, why can't we all just get along? Like, why, in each village, you got the ape village and you got the human village. It's like, really, most people just want to live their lives.
Yeah.
But there has to be distrust. There's always dissent, and there's always a troublemaker and someone who has to have it their way. And I really was feeling that sort of despair when I was watching it. Like, damn it! Like, if they could just work this out. Like, but it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I think as soon as Dreyfus is like, oh yeah, we're going to get the weapons over there. There's that piece of you that's like, uh-oh,
Yeah.
And then when Koba's like, hey, we're going to check out what they're doing, you're like, uh-oh, and it's almost like a drip here, and you start seeing suddenly that, oh, we're topping off the cup as it's getting dripped in,
Yeah. How amazing is that Koba character, by the way?
Really,
the apes villain. Good night. He's not even real.
Yeah.
And, I have all these feelings for him. He's amazing. An amazing performance, an amazing visual effect. Amazing.
So Koba is played by Toby Kebbell. And he is a character in the previous film,
right? Who was? Yeah, I'm sorry. You go.
Well, no, we see him as a. He has a brief role, but it's a sympathetic role because we see it, in this film as well, how he's been tortured and poked and prodded, and so his hatred of humans comes from a real place.
Yeah.
of his own experience, right? I mean, and that's the contrast between the two is really interesting. And by the way, I spoke with Rick Jaffa and Amanda Silver, and they mentioned how they thought of Koba and Caesar as almost like brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Caesar thinks of Koba as a brother. I don't know that the final film necessarily emphasizes that to the degree that I would have liked necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that as long as the apes are sort of in their state of nature, Koba and Caesar are joined at the hip. But as soon as humans reassert their sort of tribal instincts take over, and Caesar has a tribal instinct that says, well, my father was human.
Right.
Whereas Koba has a tribal instinct that says humans did this to me. So suddenly that's the between these two brothers, that's the wedge.
Yeah.
But the way it's manifested, there's that moment when he the apes aren't listening to him. They say Caesar wouldn't do this when he's just. And by the way, just I don't want to talk all over myself, but when the apes take over City Hall,
yeah,
and they're just chasing these humans, I mean, it's a genuinely terrifying moment.
Yeah, yeah. There's something scary. I thought this was having just watched Planet of the Apes with you, where they're upright, walking, talking, living like humans, and then watching this movie where they're beginning to adopt those traits.
Yeah.
There's something so terrifying about seeing an ape pick up a machine gun, and like kind of know what it's doing,
right?
Like learning. I thought that was executed really well.
Really well, yeah. But so that scene there in City Hall, and one of the apes says, "No, Caesar wouldn't do this," and he grabs him and he throws him off the balcony.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that was a gasp moment.
It really, I mean, and that's they talk about in screenwriting you have the save the cat moment.
You're right.
This is like the kill the cat moment where you're like, okay,
right. He's the villain. Yeah.
he's clearly the villain. There's no redemption. Once he throws him off, you're like, okay, he's a bad guy.
Yeah.
Right. And that goes to a moment earlier in the film when we see the apes in their society and they're learning lessons, and one of their precepts is ape does not kill ape.
Right.
So it's a violation of their basic law. Now the film is, and I mentioned this in my interview with Matt Reeves as well. It's very similar structurally to Battle for the Planet of the Apes, which is the final film of the original cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very similar, because that is about sort of the ape community, coming together following the conquest, right? And because in that series, the fourth film was called Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, and that's probably the clearest predecessor to Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
Mm-hmm.
But it was interesting to me as somebody who has seen both films how these echoes kind of play out.
Yeah.
So much so that at the end of Battle for the Planet of the Apes ends with a the film is told as a flashback. The entire film is told as a flashback with a framing device set hundreds of years later.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the story is about Caesar, but it's told as a story by the lawgiver, who's played by John Huston, who had some alcoholic debts to pay off, I'm assuming, which is why he chose to get in ape makeup. But so the film ends with these apes and humans kind of with an uneasy alliance, uneasy peace, and somebody asks the lawgiver, like, lawgiver, who knows about the future? Like, what'll happen in the future? And the lawgiver says, well, maybe only the dead. And we go in. There's a statue of Caesar, and we go in on the statue of Caesar, and we see that the statue is crying. There's like tear, and it's one of these metaphorical endings where it's left open ended. Like, are they tears of joy?
Right.
That humans and apes are living together, or are they tears of sadness that, well, the cycle perpetuates itself? And this film, if you recall, it ends with a close-up on Caesar's face.
Yeah.
And there was a part of me that just wanted to see a little tear come down his cheek, just as an echo to that. But you see the sadness in his face, which I love.
Yeah.
You see, and I wrote this in my review, Caesar is, to me, the ultimate tragic figure because he's the peacemaker who will never know peace.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think as we talk about Caesar, we should talk about Andy Serkis' performance.
Yeah. Yeah, just I don't know. I mean, all I have is very positive things to say about all this. Like, I just actually, I might start veering into something else. So I'll let you go ahead and talk about that.
Well, I think this is the first movie that Andy Serkis has gotten top billing in. And truly, he's not in it as himself. He's completely subsumed in this CGI costume.
Yeah.
That's really the only word for it, because the melding of visual effects and performance is so seamless that I defy anybody to say that Andy Serkis as Caesar looks fake in this movie.
Yeah.
And some people have quibbles about the ape effects and whatnot. I don't see those quibbles, but let's zero in. I don't think Andy Serkis does a thing wrong in terms of his performance.
Right.
Right. But yeah, you were saying?
Well, no, I was just gonna say. I mean, we're talking, a peacemaker who will never know peace. And again, I mean, we're talking about a character that only says, a handful of words throughout the movie, and like this could have just been like a war movie, apes versus man, go. But it's like just that we're talking about the emotional depth of what's going on here, and that's what makes this movie so good. It's very thoughtful.
Yeah.
And stemming from that is I have to, like, Matt Reeves, I mean, my goodness, like, there are again, for characters that don't speak a whole lot, so you have to visually tell this movie. There are so many amazing visual moments in this movie. I mean, when the apes are storming where the humans live, there's this shot. Well, so it's at night, and it's very orange because there's flames everywhere, and they're attacking. You got these apes with machine guns on horses, and then an ape takes over a tank. Do you remember this shot? Mm-hmm. And it's a camera mounted on a tank that doesn't move, and you follow it as the ape jumps on the tank, takes the driver, kills him, kills the other guy inside, takes over the tank, starts firing until the tank crashes into a building. And it's frightening. you know? And then there's this other amazing shot where, Caesar's son is somewhere, he's a boy, and he's confused about what to think because his dad is a person who wants to have peace with the humans, but then he's seen the violence that these humans can commit, and he's got Koba, who you said, sort of the brother figure to Caesar, who's trying to poison his head with his own hateful thoughts. Yeah. And there's this amazing scene when the bad apes, burn their own village down and try to blame it on the humans, and you see Caesar's son, they call him Blue Eyes, right?
Yeah, Bright Eyes.
Bright Eyes, I'm sorry. And you see Bright Eyes and Koba, right?
Which, by the way, did you get that as a callback?
I thought it was Blue Eyes the whole time, but now that you say it's Bright Eyes, yes, I do. That's what they called Charlton Heston's character in
the original one, yeah.
Yeah. But there's this amazing shot of the two apes in front of the flaming village where it's like his mind is being like warped, in the wrong direction. If that was like an Oscar movie, that would be like a memorable shot that you would not forget. And I don't know. I was very taken with the visual stuff. And then also, at the end when Caesar and I'm sorry, what's Dreyfus?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've forgotten his name. But yeah, Dreyfus and Caesar are having their we know where this is going.
Oh, you mean Malcolm? Malcolm.
Sorry, Malcolm. Yes, Malcolm. It's kind of like, we're going to have to separate. You're going to have to kind of...
They have that beautiful shot of the two of them putting their heads together.
Well, putting their heads together, but then the apes, who are all collecting towards Caesar, are all in this sort of sunrise warm glow. Yeah. And then Malcolm recedes into the shadows. Like, man's time is now got to go, it's retreating. And I was like, it's a powerful image. And I can't say enough, honestly, about the visual aspect of this movie.
Well, and I mean, a lot of that has obviously, we're talking about Matt Reeves. I think what he brings, and Matt Reeves is part of that whole J.J. Abrams onslaught. He obviously he came up with J.J. Abrams. They created Felicity together, et cetera, and it's kind of interesting how basically that crew has got all of science fiction under their thrall.
Yeah, you're right.
right?
Literally.
Star Trek, Star Wars, Planet of the Apes, et cetera, you know?
Yeah. Wow. Good call. Yeah. Well, that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean it's
Seems to be in good hands.
well, I mean that's kind of the thing, and you know that's something Matt Reeves said, how like when they were kids, J.J. Abrams loved Star Wars and he loved Planet of the Apes,
Oh, how funny.
and now here they are, you know.
Yeah.
And they're already hard at work on the next run, even though no sequel has been announced yet. The Dawn of the Planet of the Apes opened with about $73 million, which is almost $20 million more than the previous one opened to.
And let's face it, that's a feat. I mean, for like, being a sequel to, or a prequel rather, to a movie that's from the 60s that I would argue a lot of people haven't seen. And then to make this movie and have it open with $70 million, come on, they got to be proud of that.
Yeah, well, and that's, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, I mean, Fox spent many years trying to find the thing that could bring Planet of the Apes back.
Mm-hmm.
They had James Cameron try, they had Peter Jackson try, they had Oliver Stone try. I mean, it was like the scene in Airplane where people are just lining up to hit that woman.
Right.
That's what it was like, and the fact that they ended up getting the 2001 film, which did well financially, didn't do that well critically, and that should have been the end of it.
Right.
That should have been the end of it, and yet somehow they found a way to bring it back from that. Which says something. Now the question is, so it's made $73 million so far. I'm willing to wager it'll be number one again this coming weekend because there's nothing really coming out. There's Sex Tape coming out, which I suppose you can see old wrinkled apes fighting it out, or you can watch Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. I don't even know that.
But I mean, I'm sure that's going to do whatever it's going to do, but I doubt it will.
It's not going to do apes money. I'll tell you that much.
And I want to say one more thing. This is just kind of a personal anecdote, but having worked on the movie Now You See Me, I got to being as close as I was with the filmmakers and everything. I got to see everything on a very detailed level, and watching how visual effects in movie, I know how they work. You watch the behind the scenes, I follow this stuff, but I had no idea, just how much goes into a visual effect in a film. And you farm it out to a company, and they do their effect, and they give it to you, and then you go into a screening room, and they show you on a big movie screen, so you have to see how it's going to look all blown up. And you scrutinize it, and it's, you give your notes, and you send it back, and then they send it back to you, and you scrutinize it again, and then they send it back. And there's people in there. There's visual effects, people. There's the director, and they all have laser pointers. And for instance, in Now You See Me, there's a part where a big projected image goes up on a brick building. And I remember it had gone through several iterations, and the director had this laser pointer, and he was pointing to the tops of the projected image. He's like, well, it's not fading off. When something's projected on a wall, it's got to fade off. I mean, I was just like, wow, like this is a shot that's like 2 seconds long.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one shot of X amount of shots, and it was going through that much scrutiny, and then eventually they get it right, and it goes into the film. And then I was looking at this movie, and I'm like, every single shot nearly is a visual effect.
Yeah.
And not only that, but you have tons of apes. You have, not only the apes, but you have their eyebrows, and you have their, sweat. These apes have teardrops. There's just their hair, like just so much. I couldn't even imagine the scrutiny from that one shot in Now You See Me, applying it to every single shot in this movie, and going into a screening room and being like, okay, I mean, if the wind's blowing this way, why is the hair has to, okay, send it back.
Right.
I mean, it must, just the patience.
Yeah. Well, and not just that. I mean, it was interesting because something Matt Reeves talked about was how they had to do multiple passes for any given take, right?
Right.
So you would do the shot with the ape actors in it, and then they would do a shot without the ape actors in it and only with the humans.
Right.
so that they could composite. And it was interesting how he talked about how the effects people said, there was the effects pass and then there was the clean pass. And Matt Reeves changed the terminology, and he said, no, we shouldn't call it a clean pass. We should call it the actor pass.
Right.
Because that's the pass. That's the performance that's going to go in the movie.
Right.
Is the one without the motion capture effects in it.
Yeah.
That struck me as being really indicative of his approach, is to never let the effects overpower the emotional underpinnings of the story.
Yeah.
But I mean, that being said, where obviously there's going to be a next movie. Where do you want to see things go? Right. This is a question I asked Reeves. I also asked Bomback. You've got 2,000 years of story ahead of you.
Right.
Where would you like to see it go next?
Well, it's tough. I was thinking about it in the middle of this movie again, like knowing where this ends up.
Yeah.
With the apes ruling planet Earth. I mean, I wasn't ready for that ending. I wasn't ready to see all the humans annihilated. That's going to be difficult, I think.
Yeah.
It's going to be difficult it'll be a difficult ending to walk away from.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I still appreciated that even though some bad guys got their way and some good guys got their way, at least, our heroes were able to end up in places I was comfortable leaving the theater with. So, I mean, it's headed toward a dark place. So I don't know what the conflict is in the next film and how you have an ending that, people don't.
Well, you read about the original ending, right?
Yeah, well, because they mentioned that the military is coming.
Yeah.
And I guess the original ending to the movie was the apes on the Bay Bridge seeing the warships approaching.
Yeah, so the original plan was that we would actually see them, the apes, retreating back into Muir Woods.
Yeah.
As a battleship is coming.
Yeah.
And they decided to skip that beat, essentially, jump out of that a little bit earlier.
Because you're potentially boxing yourself in. It's sort of like Back to the Future, where it's like it's just a little joke to have like, hey, your kids are in trouble, get your girlfriend in the car. And then when they actually had to make a sequel, it's like, oh crap, now we have to deal with their kids and this girlfriend in the car.
Right.
You kind of box yourself in.
Right. Which is, that's like a Bob Gale always tells that story where people are like, oh, you must have planned a sequel. He's like, if we had planned a sequel, we would never have put Jennifer in the car.
Right. Yeah.
Which is totally true, because the first thing they do in Back to the Future 2 is find a way to get rid of her.
Yeah, seriously, that's her plot line, is like they make her pass out and then they just dump her in different places.
They just dump her through both sequels.
Yeah.
Right? So the original ending was essentially this ending sort of posits an impending conflict.
Yeah.
But it's vague. It's not specifically rendered.
Right.
And the original ending would have been much more explicit. And I think they chose the perfect way to end it.
I agree.
I think what makes the ape movies unique. I was actually having this conversation with somebody online earlier today who was comparing Planet of the Apes to Star Wars, and they were explaining why they like Star Wars better. And I said, well, of course they're completely different. But I was like, when you think about it, every one of the Star Wars movies, even the downer Star Wars movies, have an upbeat ending.
Yeah.
Every single one.
Yeah.
Like even Empire Strikes Back, which is considered like that's like a downbeat film, right?
Right.
But the absolute ending of the movie is Luke has a new hand, he's reunited with his friends, the rebels have regrouped, and hey, we're going to go find Han Solo. It's an upbeat ending.
Right.
Revenge of the Sith ends with literally the track on the soundtrack. It's called A New Hope.
Right.
Whereas every Planet of the Apes movie has a downer ending.
Huh.
Right? The first movie ends with, oh my gosh, I was on Earth the whole time. The second movie ends with, oh my gosh, I just blew up the Earth. The third movie ends with, hey, remember those two chimpanzees who you love and they're so cute and they're like a nice married couple? Yeah, we just shot them to death.
Yeah.
The fourth movie ends with, oh yeah, hey, the apes have now taken over. You're screwed. Yeah. And the fifth movie ends with, hey, the statue is crying. That can't be a good thing.
Yeah.
So I'm gratified that they've kept that streak going with these new films because Rise of the Planet of the Apes, the film itself has a somewhat upbeat ending, but then we have the sequence immediately after that, which is the plague is now spreading, and that's probably not a good thing.
Yeah.
So I like that this ending for Dawn of the Planet of the Apes was ambiguous but clearly downbeat.
Yeah.
I think that was a stronger ending.
Yeah.
Now my other question for you is, would you want to see them take this thing all the way up to and including the events of the '68 film? In other words, would you want to see a new version of the '68 film?
That's tough. I mean, like you said, there's 2,000 years worth of story. And I was thinking, I mean, what are we going to do here? Like, are we going to have a trilogy? And then, of course, you can always continue to make movies out of that. But is there going to be, they want to have like kind of a contained story here when they do the next one? Or, how far do you go? I don't know. And does that lead to, like you said, like remaking the first one? I'd be interested to see what that looks like, but like I'm not tied to the original.
Yeah.
Like you are.
I mean, I don't know. I've thought about that a lot, and my position as of now is like, well, there's no reason to redo that movie.
No, not really. There's no surprises.
Yeah, the only surprises would be how is it going to be different, and they tried that with the 2001 movie.
Right. So,
which was like, it's not on Earth, and we have a different twist ending, and the twist ending sucks, and whatever,
Right.
Maybe get Mark Wahlberg back as an ape.
Yeah, right.
How the hell did I become a monkey? I think I found a transformer. Have Mark Wahlberg as an ape repairing Optimus Prime. I'm just going to throw that out there.
He'll get all of the bucks.
That's right. But so regardless, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, you and I are both very happy with it.
Yeah.
It definitely feels like a strong midpoint to the summer. Now, the summer is not over yet because we still have Guardians of the Galaxy coming out.
Yep.
So for our next episode, we're going to be going all in on Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
excited.
I'm going to do my damnedest, too, to see Boyhood.
Oh, that's right. Well, speaking of Boyhood, did you see Apehood? Somebody mashed up the trailers of Planet of the Apes and Boyhood.
I saw the headline. I didn't click on it.
Oh, that's something I would have assumed that you checked out.
I hadn't seen either at the time, so I kind of avoided it.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, and by the way, you and I were talking about Armand White.
Yeah.
The most trollish of all film critics, and we've never talked about him on the show, but we were talking about him in person about how he's this film critic, and he's he has a fairly prestigious title, but he's well known for being just the biggest troll on earth.
Yeah.
When it comes to he likes movies. Let me put it this way: he wrote a scathing review of 12 Years a Slave, but he also wrote a love letter to Jack and Jill.
Right. And I think if anyone in the public knows who he is, it's probably because when Toy Story 3 came out on Rotten Tomatoes, it was trending at 100%, fresh. Everybody loves this movie. And then one review.
One freaking guy.
Yeah, one guy said he hated Toy Story 3, which is, let's face it, that's impossible. And so I was like, who is this guy? And so I think that, he started, and he feeds off that. He loves when people are like, oh, you're crazy, and da-da-da. He's like, am I?
Thus was born the legend of Armand White. So you and I were talking about him, and then in the same article, he rips up Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and Boyhood. And I was like, oh, Armand.
Yeah.
You lovable scamp. But I guess what we're saying is ignore Armand White and listen to us for your movie recommendations.
Hey, there you go.
But with that brings us to the end of another episode of our show. Our time runs out so quickly.
But you know what? Isn't it great, like, seeing a movie that you really enjoy and getting to talk about it? That's fun.
And hopefully you enjoy listening to us talk about it.
I hope so.
Hopefully vicariously.
Yeah, and please, feel free to write in and tell us what you guys think of these things. I'd love to hear if people agree with us, disagree with us.
Yeah, let us know. Yeah, absolutely. That's. I mean, we're doing this for us, but also for you. So
yeah, of course.
That feedback is pretty important. But next time we will be talking about Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm sure we'll both have a lot to say about that. That's the next big Marvel Cinematic Universe entry, and then after that we've got Ninja Turtles. So lots of good flicks coming up. And hey, maybe Sean Coyle may join us. Possibly,
I'm thinking for Ninja Turtles.
For at least one of those two. But Brian, where can people find you online?
At everythingbrian.blogspot.com. Brian with an I.
And when's the last time you posted anything?
It's been a little while. It's been a
while. And do you have a Twitter account?
I do. At Everything Brian.
And when's the last time you tweeted something?
I think it might have been once to win, free soap for a year from Costco or something. I have no idea.
All right, so
I'm on Twitter. I was on Twitter because a friend of mine in 2007, before Twitter was Twitter, was like, "Hey, join this thing. I'm on Twitter." So I was there first. I just choose not to use it.
Well, here's the deal, folks. If you use Twitter, I want you to go and add Brian. He's at Everything Brian, because I feel like if with enough critical mass of people following him, we're gonna get him to tweet one thing every. I'm gonna say 8 weeks.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's my mission right now.
Anyone reaches out, I will certainly reach back.
There you go. Brian is good about touching people back. That's he's gotten into trouble for that before, but we try to keep that in check now.
Yeah.
Anyway, you can find me online. I'm at Zacky's Corner. That's ZAKIS Corner.com, and also at the Huffington Post, where my movie reviews and interviews also go up. I also write for another website called Sequart. That's SEQUART, which is a terrific site, which I'm happy to be affiliated with, and they do a lot of great pop culture coverage. You can also find me on Twitter at Zacky's Corner, and I'm going to do the douchebag thing. If you want to find me, Google me. I'll come right up. I feel like that's like a douchey thing that people do now.
Well, but
do you have a card? No, just Google me. Yeah, but it's that razor's edge between douchey and practical.
As long as you know.
Yeah. The Practical Douche, by the way. That sounds like a new sitcom.
Yeah, it does.
Starring Tim Allen. I don't know. I don't know why Tim Allen. That's the first name.
Practical Douche. Yeah.
But that wraps up another episode of the Movie Film Show. So on behalf of my colleague Brian Hall, and on behalf, once again, of my absent colleague Sean Coyle, my name is Zachy Hassan. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you for listening.
Well,